There's a secret currency running the global financial system, one that almost nobody outside the banking world talks about. It's not the dollar, the euro, or even the yuan, but it quietly controls the flow of trillions, shapes every central bank policy, and determines the fate of nations. It's called the Eurodollar, and it might just be the most powerful financial force on Earth. Not the euro, not a digital coin, not a currency you can touch, but an entire shadow system of offshore dollars, created, lent, and traded beyond the reach of any government or central bank. It's the global dollar that doesn't live in America. Here's how it all began. Back in the 1950s, during the Cold War, the Soviet Union was terrified the United States might freeze its dollar deposits in retaliation for geopolitical tensions. So Russian banks started keeping their dollars in London, outside U.S. jurisdiction. That simple decision triggered the birth of a financial revolution. Soon, other countries realized they could do the same. Hold dollars abroad, lend them, borrow them, trade them. And just like that, the Eurodollar market was born, an offshore ecosystem of U.S. dollars circulating entirely outside the U.S. banking system. And here's the twist. Those offshore dollars aren't regulated by the Federal Reserve. No reserve requirements. No oversight. No limits. They're digital money, created by banks for banks, backed only by trust and balance sheets. Today, that system is estimated to be worth tens of trillions, and it silently underpins the global economy. Every time a multinational borrows dollars in Hong Kong, or a sovereign fund lends in Singapore, or a hedge fund moves collateral through London, it's the Eurodollar system in motion. It's the invisible network of global liquidity, and it's the reason the dollar dominates, even outside its borders. Because these offshore dollars function just like real ones. They buy oil. They finance trade. They fund corporations. They are money, but money that doesn't officially exist on any nation's balance sheet. The Federal Reserve doesn't control them. The U.S. Treasury can't see them. But the entire world depends on them. And here's where it gets fascinating and dangerous. The Eurodollar system makes the dollar global, but it also makes global finance fragile. When offshore banks create dollar credit, they expand global liquidity. But when they stop lending, when trust breaks down, the system implodes. That's exactly what happened in 2008. The financial crisis wasn't just a housing collapse. It was a Eurodollar crisis. Global banks, especially in Europe, had borrowed trillions of offshore dollars and suddenly couldn't roll them over. Dollar liquidity dried up everywhere. The Fed had to step in with swap lines, injecting hundreds of billions just to keep the world's shadow dollar system alive. Since then, every major global crisis, from 2011 to 2020 to 2022, has been in some way a Eurodollar squeeze. When the system runs smoothly, it fuels global growth. When it tightens, the world feels pain. That's why the dollar strengthens during crises, not because of U.S. economic strength, but because offshore borrowers scramble to find dollars to repay their debts. It's a short squeeze on the world's currency. This hidden system explains so many paradoxes. Why the dollar rises even when America struggles. Why global markets collapse when the Fed raises rates. Why emerging markets implode when liquidity dries up. Because the Eurodollar is the bloodstream of global money, and when it constricts, everything else suffers. It's also why no other currency has been able to dethrone the dollar. The euro, the yuan, even gold, none of them have an equivalent offshore network. China may talk about de-dollarization, but even its trade flows through dollar channels. The euro may rival the dollar in theory, but its offshore credit system is tiny by comparison. The dollar's power doesn't come from politics. It comes from plumbing, from the pipes beneath global finance, invisible to most, but vital to all. And here's the eerie part. Nobody really knows how big the Eurodollar system is. Estimates range from $15 trillion to over $100 trillion. Because it's all off balance sheet, private, unregulated, and constantly shifting. It's the world's biggest black box. And the Fed, for all its power, can only react, not control it. Every time global liquidity breaks, the Fed steps in as the lender of last resort to a system it never created, doesn't regulate, and can barely measure. It's like a ghost haunting the modern economy. The Eurodollar is both a blessing and a curse. It made globalization possible. It gave the world access to cheap funding. But it also created a shadow empire of leverage and instability, where a liquidity shock in one corner of the world can freeze credit everywhere. It's why the dollar never dies, and why the global system keeps returning to it again and again. Because no other currency has what the Eurodollar has: trust, skill, infrastructure, history. It's the invisible backbone of world finance. So the next time you hear that the dollar's dominance is ending, remember, even if America disappeared tomorrow, the Eurodollar would keep circulating. It's not America's currency anymore. It's the world's currency. The secret global money that nobody talks about, but everyone depends on. If this opened your eyes to how deep the dollar system really goes, make sure to like, comment, share this video with fellow traders and economists, and subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden architecture of global finance.